Hello, welcome back to my channel, or hello for the first time. How are you doing? Are you alright? Are you coping? Are you okay? I'm here for you if you need me, because the world is on fire. Some parts of it are literally on fire, but the world's terrible. So today what we're going to do is we're going to make caramel cake, because it's easy, it's delicious, and it might cheer you up. You don't know, you might be sitting there thinking, I don't need cheered up, then you make it and you think, do you know what, I need that. Or you might be sitting there thinking, that'll never cheer me up, and then you make it and it definitely will, and you'll be like, I was wrong. So we're going to try it. It's very, very simple. Before I start, I must say, you've obviously noticed that there's no Marcus at either side of me. Today is the first day we're filming with just me and the dogs, like I used to, and it's very strange. I feel awkward. It's a bit odd, I don't really understand it. What we're going to do is you're going to preheat your oven to 180 degrees or 160 degrees if you've got a fan oven. That might be gas mark 4. I think that's gas mark 4. Don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but I'll put it in the description anyway. If I do what I just did there and keep taking big breaths like I've just ran a marathon, I can't breathe properly. Baby's pushing against my lungs and stuff and I can't really get a breath. So I constantly sound like I'm out of breath. So if I'm constantly taking big breaths, that's why. I'm okay. Everything's fine. Right, okay, so preheat your oven. We're going to make a crust first. That's going to go in, then we're going to make a caramel. So to do the crust, it's 3 ingredients. You need butter, you need flour, and you need caster sugar. So start by measuring 160 grams of flour. You do have to sift this flour. I haven't done that, but I recommend that you do. Next, you're adding 60 grams of caster sugar, and then you're going to add 115 grams of cold butter. It has to be cold because what we're going to do is smoosh it together the way that you would if you were making like scones or scones, however you prefer to say it. And using cold butter makes that easier. If you use like warm butter, this is going to be a big mush, and you won't get like a crumb consistency. So I've already washed my hands, and I'm just going to take my rings off before I do this, because if you don't, you'll get flavour and stuff and it'll be gross, disgusting. So what you're doing is you're just basically taking the flour and the butter and rubbing it between your fingers. And you will do this until it's all combined and you have a crumb consistency made. It's quite fun. It's quite fun to do if you've got wee kiddies and stuff. So this cake, I call it caramel cake, right, which could realistically be anything. If you've seen caramel cake on a menu, it would be like a caramel sponge or a pudding or whatever. But to me, this is what I got at school as well. It's basically like a shortcake base. It's not caramel shortcake because caramel shortcake has melted chocolate on top as a layer. So it's almost caramel shortcake, but not really. So I used to get this in school. It's like a big tray bake as always, and you got a wee slice with some custard. And it was very exciting, it was very extravagant. Now in Scotland it's the same as the other school cakes I make. You can get like little cubes of this in the butchers and stuff. You can actually just pick up slices of this cake. It's fairly popular in Scotland, this cake. I don't really know about anywhere else because I don't live there. While I'm making this, I will use this as an opportunity to remind everyone that if you do wish to support me in any way, I do have a Patreon. But as well as that, a lot of people on Twitter and stuff have been asking me if I've got a like baby wish list. I did have a bacon wish list, I still do. People sometimes get me stuff off that and I appreciate all of it. If you do get me anything, by the way, please add a note, because it costs nothing to add a note, and I would love to @ you on Twitter and say thank you personally. Anyway, point being, people have been asking me if I've got a baby wish list, like Amazon wish list. I do, and that is in the comments below. Now that is also for my family as well, so please don't think for a minute that I expect anyone to get anything of that for me, but people have asked, and so if you do want to get the baby anything, that is there for you, but I don't expect you to. Every time I do get something, I am supremely overwhelmed, and and I do appreciate everything that I get, and I appreciate how lucky we are. So I am only letting you know because I know that some people have asked, but please don't think that we're the kind of people who would expect, because we don't. We definitely don't. And to everyone who has got this thing so far, thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts. It's honestly so kind. I usually post all of the PO box stuff either on my Instagram or Twitter, so you'll often see whenever I get stuff. But if you don't put a note with like your Twitter at or your handle of any kind or anything, I'll never know, and I can't thank you personally. We've got a crumb that means when you grab it, it kind of forms a shape, but you'll see that there's like a crumb consistency. Yeah, so that's what we're looking for. So you take your crumb consistency, you take your tin. I'm just using these tins because I've got hundreds of them, but you can use any tin. You can use a cake tin, like a circle tin. It has to be fairly shallow, there's no point in having it super deep, but it's basically any sort of like tray or oven tray, cake tin. It can be circle, square, rectangle, anything you fancy. And you just basically pour the crumb straight in there, which looks a bit mental, but there is reasons. There's method to the madness. So you basically just get your hand and evenly shimmy the crumb around till you think that it's an even layer of crumb. And once you think that it's sort of even, start pressing it gently with your hands. Just start pressing it down with your wee fingers there. Just a little bit. I always like to do the edges first. Okay, and once you've pressed it down with your hands, then get a spoon and start smoothing it down with the back of the spoon. Right, once you're happy that your base is successfully smooth and there's no crumb or anything on it, this will now go in your oven for 20 to 25 minutes, depending on your oven. If your oven runs really hot, it's 20 minutes. If your oven's not so hot, 25. But I have a fan oven, so mine is going in at 160 for 20 minutes, because I think 20 minutes is just enough time. So 20 minutes for this, and then as this is in, we'll start the caramel. Okay, so my timer's on. So for your caramel, I fully recommend a non-stick pan. This pan cost me £3, and it is actually a fryer pan. So it came with like a mesh thing to pull your chips out and a lid, and I got it from Asda. Again, a couple of pounds. And I've only ever used this for caramel or toffee because it's so non-stick that it is just great. So you don't need to spend a lot of money on a non-stick pan. I actually bought the cheapest pan that Asda had that was non-stick because I thought, well, if I wreck it, it was only a couple of quid. So that's what that is. So, in your non-stick pan, we need 100 grams of light brown soft sugar. Mine is a bit compact. So this sugar does clump, and usually if it's in cakes and stuff when I use this, I just pour it in, I don't sieve it. For your caramel, you do have to sieve it because the big lumps don't just dissolve in your cake. Well, they don't dissolve in your caramel the way they would your cake, is what I meant to say. So I've got my pot, got my sieve, so I need to measure 100 grams of that. Once you've got your sifted brown sugar, you're going to add a full tin of condensed milk, which is 397 grams. So if you don't have a tin and you're using like a tub or a tube or whatever, just like 400 grams, whatever. There's no point messing about with like the odd 3 grams. So a full tin of that goes straight in. I add a tiny pinch of salt, literally just like a smidge of salt, literally for flavour. Next you add 2 tablespoons of golden syrup. Any golden syrup will do. I'm just using Lion's because it's what I always have. It's 2 tablespoons. I'm not measuring 2 tablespoons. I think that's probably 1 and that's probably a second. But I do recommend measuring it. That's what I do. And next you will add 100 grams of butter. So once your butter is all in there, everything's in, so all you need to do is just give your ingredients a wee shimmy round, mix them together, and then we'll get them on the hob and then we'll get them melting. So my crust has about 4 minutes left, so I'm going to move the camera over, we'll take that out and I'll show you how to do the caramel. It's really simple. So that's probably not the best angle in the world, but it's the best that I can do. So start smooshing them together. With this, I do have to say, you can't really walk away from it at any point. You do just have to keep stirring it. I use a plastic spatula because I find it best to get all the caramel and stuff off the sides. Once it starts to melt together and become all the one happy mess, you're then going to bring it to the boil. It doesn't take a lot for caramel to get to a boil, so just be careful with your heat. You're not putting it up full burn or anything, you're just putting it up a little bit higher. And then once it's boiling, you're just going to keep stirring it for a solid 5 minutes. You'll see yourself the caramel will start to change and it'll become exactly what you want it to be. But I'll show you that anyway. Now, I like to have a wee plate handy, and you'll see why soon. I just like to put little drops of the caramel on there, and then it helps me see the difference in colour, and it helps me see the difference in consistency, because you want it to be fairly thick but not too thick, because you make it too thick it becomes toffee and it's no longer caramel. All sounds very complicated, I swear to God it's so simple. So you can see that it's all melted, it's all became one big smoosh, and that's what you want. So we're going to turn it up a wee smidgy and then just keep stirring. If you don't keep stirring, little bits will burn and it'll become speckled, and that's not what you want. You don't want a burned caramel, you just want a tasty caramel. Now as it starts to heat up, and you can see it is starting to boil now, you'll see that it almost instantly starts to thick up, because you can do all this and it's starting to thick up. You can make a line in it and there's almost a wee line that follows it. So this is where your plate comes in handy. So this is starting to go, right? So I would put a little drop on the plate, have a look at it, and then put it like that and see how long it takes for it to drip. You see that it's pouring a little bit and then it's basically doing nothing. See, it just poured a little bit. So you can see that it will set like this, but you want to get a little bit more colour on there so that you can have a little bit more flavour. It will turn a nice caramelly shade. But if you're sick of stirring, you absolutely can just go just now if you really wanted to. It just won't be as nice if you just have a little bit of patience. Now obviously be careful, this is boiling hot sugar. It will burn you if it splashes on you, and if it touches your skin it'll be really bad. Proper burny, proper sore. So please, if you're doing this with kiddies, do not let them be anywhere near you at this point, just in case anything bad happens. And obviously protect yourself as well, make sure that you're not burning your hands or anything. So we'll just do a second test because it's been a wee 5 minutes, and you'll see the colour is different. I don't know if you can see because of the lights, but the colour is definitely different, and the drip test, it only drips a little bit. So again, you can go from here or you can just keep going with the colour, but you don't want to go too far because you don't want to make toffee, you just want to make a nice caramel. Now I think I am happy with this colour, so I'm going to turn off the heat just now, but again keep stirring it, and just as it's still really hot, the pot's still really roasting, so it could still burn even though there's no heat on. So just give it a wee stir with the heat off, make sure you're happy, and then again put a wee bit on your plate. You can see, maybe you can't see, but I can see the 3 different colours, and that's a great colour for me, but you could have used it at any point, but that's where it might be. So this here is my base. It's been out of the oven not for very long, to be honest with you. So it doesn't matter if it's hot or if it's cold, you can actually just pour the caramel on straight away. Makes zero difference. So we're just going to pour that straight on, and you see how easy that just drips straight out the pan because you're using a grease-proof pan. You can see in there that there's actually not a lot left. So it's not like you're having to scrape the pan or anything, so that's great. Take your wee spatula and just start pulling caramel out to the sides, and once it's all to the sides, just do your best to make it nice and even. Once your caramel's even, take your chocolate sprinkles, then just sprinkle however much you want on there. So this will now just sit, chill out, harden and set. Once it's fully cool, we can then take a slice and we'll try it out. So you can either put this in the fridge to when it's set. If you put it in the fridge though, I would take it out maybe an hour before you plan on eating it, because it is caramel and it will just go really, really hard. Or you can just be patient and leave it out to set, and leave it just to set it at its own time, and then it'll be ready to eat whenever you want to eat it. So I would say maybe come back in about an hour and a half, 2 hours. It'll be fully set by then, and yeah, you can munch. So I'll see you in about 2 hours. Okay, so I put mine in the fridge and I've been away editing a video and whatnot. So this is what we're left with. So we're just going to get a knife and cut through it. As I say, mine has been in the fridge, so it's a little bit harder than it should be. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just cut round the edge, separate the caramel from it, and I'll show you. That's our nice crunchy bottom, and there is our caramel slice. Now I'm quite happy with the biscuit caramel ratio. That's fell apart a wee bit right enough, but that's okay, that's fine. So you can see that the caramel has set, but it's still soft, and that's what you're looking for. So as always, professional, as always, profesh. I've not had my dinner yet, so I'm not going to eat all of this, but I am going to eat some of it. But there's not really that much to tell you. It's caramel, it's biscuity stuff, it's dead tasty. If you've gotten this far and you think, nah, that's too much work for me, you can go to the shop and get like pre-made short crust pastry, or like, is it short crust? Yeah, it's like some sort of pre-rolled pastry stuff anyway. Roll that out, cook that, then you can get, now that I had a tin of condensed milk, you can get tins of caramel. Just pour the caramel on, pour your sprinkles on, and then you'll have something similar. But the caramel is very, very, very much like a, oh, I don't know, it's very, very soft anyway, but it's more like a caramelly puddingy caramel, but you can still absolutely use it, it'll still taste like school cake. It just depends how much effort you want to put in, but I don't think this is much effort at all, but there is that way out. So yeah, it's super sweet, super simple, and it's fairly traditional in Scotland. You get this cake everywhere. If you've made it this far, thank you very much. If you like this video, please consider liking and subscribing. It really does actually help. I know hundreds of folks say that, but it actually does help. Anyway, thank you so much for coming, and I will see you later. Bye!